From Boston's University's Nickerson Field, this is Professional Soccer, North American Soccer League today. The third place New York Cosmos versus the first place Boston Minutemen.
Left midfield, number 10, Wolfgang Sundhoff.
Good afternoon from Boston University's Nickerson Field. My name is Crane Davis. The gentleman sitting next to me is Kyle Rote, Jr. He plays for the Dallas Tornado. He won the Superstars last year. Kyle, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Crane. It's good to be here, and this is going to be another great game today. Of course, this is the replay of the earlier New York-Boston game that has been, the Commissioners decided needs to be replayed because of the fans coming on the field and attacking Pelé, something that's not that unusual.
In that regard, we should also mention that Pelé is not going to be starting today's game. He injured his thigh about a week ago, and the doctors have said it would be better for him not to play today, to be able to play in the rematch of this game, which is coming up Wednesday night in New York. Boston will have to play New York again. Right now, they're introducing the players. We expect the kickoff any time now. Kyle, what sort of game do you look forward to today?
Well, certainly, Crane, having played New York twice this year, it's going to be interesting to see who is their engine room. Pelé, for so many years in Santos, and of course with the Brazilian national team, has been not only the player's player, but he's also been a coach on the field, and he's directed the attack. And I'm going to be interested to see just who will take his leadership role on the New York team.
Last Friday night there was a game against Hartford in which Mark Liverich scored the only goal for New York. They lost that one 3-1, and it was a pretty important loss for New York. They right now mathematically could become a wild card entry in the playoffs. If in order to do this, however, they're going to have to win all of their remaining games, actually the two remaining games, both of them against Boston, and they're going to have to keep Boston from scoring. Okay, let's go down to the field. It looks like they're ready to kick off, and let's go with the first period. Kyle, on previous coverage, one of the things that's gotten to me on soccer coverage is the play-by-play man after man being named. I'd like today to try and stay with the flow of the play and just try to get the audience reminded that it is the object of this game is for the 10 men attacking to get that ball in the goal no matter how they can. If you can give us a little bit of the, let's start with the offsides rule. There's an out-of-bounds kick. Offsides, Kyle, what is it?
Well, Crane, what that really is, it's to avoid having the forwards or a group of players from one team line up right in front of the goalkeeper. The reason that we have the rule is much for the same reason that you have the blue line rule in ice hockey. It's to avoid there being a ping-pong match where the ball is just on the two ends of the field and there's very little midfield play. The actual rule itself says that the man receiving the ball at the time the ball is played to him must have two players between he and the goal line. And normally one of those players is the goalkeeper, the second is a defender. So often you'll see the forwards maybe not taking what would seem to be in basketball the best position on a fast break. They'll have to wait and make sure that they receive the pass.
Here's an attack now. That's goalie, Boston's goalie, Shep Messing, former Harvard goalie, and is quite a character around the league. Shep is the only one on the Boston team who's allowed to handle the ball with his hands and then only in the goal area. At the other end, Kurt Kuykendall is goalie for New York, and conveniently he's handling the ball.
Very interesting that both of these goalkeepers have graduated from the American college ranks, and of course Shep is quite a character. He was at Harvard. He has snakes living with him in his apartment, and is one of the more flamboyant young American players in the league.
Okay, now we had a little bit of roughness there and a free kick, which means the ball possession goes over to Boston. They start the play again.
You saw the defender there getting his body in front of the ball. He really had no chance to steal it. He was just trying to keep
block the shot.
Block the shot, keep the attacker from having an open shot at the goal.
One of the things that gets discussed in North American Soccer League is the amount of long kicking and incompleted passes, Kyle, as opposed to European soccer where the teams play together more often.
Well, actually, the reason for that is twofold. One is probably we don't have the continuity from season to season with the teams. We don't have the players knowing each other quite as well as a lot of the European teams who have been playing together for 10 or 15 years, players who have grown up from the age of 14 or 15 with their team. And that takes an awful lot of teamwork. The other thing is of course, a team like Miami, with a great player like Stephen David and Warren Archibald. They're a team that likes to use the fast break, the counterattack. They have the speed up front where they can make sure that they can beat the defenders. They've got the speed to do that, and so you'll see a lot of long kicks. There's an obvious offsides play.
That man was down nearer the goal than any of the defenders.
Right. As we were talking before the game, it's not so much who is closer to the goalkeeper or actually even the goal, because an imaginary line is drawn parallel to the end line, and so even though that player was further from the goal than a defender, the fact that he was out on the wing and closer to the goal line was the reason he was offside.
If you watch the footwork during this game, the control of the ball, there's a shot over the goal, Kuykendall jumping for it. You'll notice some very good footwork by these players, especially the players who have been playing for quite a while. And at halftime, Kyle is going to be doing a little clinic for those of you who are interested in playing soccer, especially the younger players. And we'll have that during the halftime of today's game.
And the idea in what we're doing at halftime, Crane, is that all of these players, from Eusebio and Pelé all the way down to even the lesser well-known professional players, have to learn how to work out on their own. And so we're going to go over some of the drills that a youngster or even a college player can work out on his own.
Now that's Manuel Maria on the right wing there for the Cosmos, centering out to Tommy Ord, who's a new acquisition by the Cosmos. And one of the things I was impressed with Ord's game last week, he is the kind of guy who just stays in front of the goal and shoots. And he could be quite dangerous. You may be able to hear the fans were not too happy with that call. Went against Boston.
Maria was one of those players, the player you mentioned being on the right wing, one of the players that had played in Santos. He's played with the Brazilian Olympic team, played with Pelé over 200 times, and he brings a wealth of experience to the New York team, and the times that we have played against them, he's created an awful lot of problems.
We talk about continuous play in soccer. The clock runs continuously unless someone is injured on the field, and there are infractions, which generally can be described as doing anything that's ungentlemanly to get the ball. There was a trip, which was reasonably ungentlemanly, so New York will get the ball. What other things can you be penalized for?
Well, we have really two classifications of penalties. One from which you get an indirect kick, which is the fouls of less violence, the fouls that in general are committed without intent. Then you have those fouls that are committed generally with intent, for which you get a direct kick, and of course you can score directly from a direct free kick.
There was a nice move. One of the signs of very good soccer play is completed passes. The flow of the play. One of the things I've noticed, the difference between North American Soccer League this year and previously, is a little bit more togetherness, even though the expansion has come.
There's no question. I think the European countries are even now going to the trend where ball control plays even a much greater role. We've played against the Polish national team, the Italian national teams, and the majority of their play is making sure that if they have the ball, there's obviously no way the other team can score. And it's a big psychological factor too, because in a game of soccer where you're running 8 or 10 miles a game, if you don't have the ball, honestly, having played, you get tired much faster.
One of the things we should mention in today's game, there is a breeze blowing off the river here in Boston. However, it was exceedingly hot down on the field. Kuykendall clearing that one successfully.
We had another offsides call there, the left wing.
Let's see if we can take a look at replay of a little bit of the action while they're in midfield. Here it comes in. See the leap, the head, and the collision there.
Soccer is quite a physical game, as you can see right there in the replay. The players don't have any pads, and the speed at which they are running into each other and moving can cause quite a lot of pain when you get knocked down on the artificial turf.
My meteorologist tells me it's 84 degrees down on the field right now. Say the breeze is probably stronger in the vicinity of the Boston goal right now. To the right of your screen is the river, and the wind down there is a little bit heavier. This is an artificial surface, Kyle.
From what I understand, this is polyturf, which is similar to what we have down at the Orange Bowl in Miami. And of course, all the artificial turfs do have an asphalt base, which retains the heat and makes it even hotter on the field than it would be up in the stands.
Nice move. Now there's a completed pass. Unfortunately, Boston doesn't seem to be moving down.
Pick up the corner behind you.
Went over the net and dropped down the back. Kyle, if you commit a serious infraction, or if you commit a number of infractions during a game, hold it. Why don't we explain this corner kick first?
Well, what has happened there is that the ball went over the end line, last touched by a New York player, in that case the goalkeeper, and you have a direct free kick from the corner. The ball could actually go into the goal from the corner without touching another player, and it's much more like a set play that you might have in football.
Beginning to see one of the first plays shape up here where New York was moving down as a play. What is it that creates the flow or breaks it up for you when you're on the field, Kyle?
Well, actually, as opposed to many other sports that we're used to, it's the player without the ball. It's what we call off-the-ball running.
It's a rather flagrant trip there.
It was. Werner Roth, the New York defender, knew that it was a bad foul, and you can see that what has happened.
Here it is
now,
again.
He's beaten, and unfortunately what has happened, we can't see it in this picture, but the foul was committed inside the penalty area, which means that it was a direct free kick foul, and so because of its being in the penalty kick area, we do have a penalty kick.
You may have noticed there Werner on his way out kicked the ball off the penalty kick spot, which somewhat ungentlemanly.
Well, it is. A lot of times it's a ploy to give the goalkeeper a little bit more time to concentrate on the kick, and Werner committed that foul right on the line, and
save it.
A great save by New York goalkeeper.
We'll look at it again on replay here. There's the dive.
The rule on a penalty kick is that the goalkeeper cannot move until the ball is kicked. It's obviously a judgment call, and the referee in that situation ruled that Kirk did not move too soon, and it was a great save.
A lot of the professional football kickers now are coming from soccer, Kyle. How far can a soccer player kick that ball?
Well, a soccer player, because of the angle at which he kicks, because he uses a much longer arc in his kick than, say, an American football kicker can kick a ball maybe 70 yards, 75 yards. But I think the greatest advantage to the soccer style is the accuracy, using the side of the foot instead of the toe, which gives you a much greater area and thus much better accuracy on your kicking.
Okay, that's a turnover there. It looks like Boston or New York gets possession again. You started in football and went to soccer. When you went into college, you were planning on being, your father was a great football player and you went into football. What made you switch over, Kyle?
Well, Crane, several things. One was that I had originally picked up soccer just to keep in shape for my football. I was playing baseball, basketball, and football and had nothing to do during the summers. And so with a group of people that we called the Black Bandits in Dallas, we started playing soccer as soon as soccer came to Dallas. And eventually it came into something in its own. I went to England one summer for 6 weeks and saw that really, I guess, in so many ways, the American sports public were isolationists. We don't realize that there are another 140 countries that play soccer, that play other sports. And Prior to that time, I had no idea soccer was the world's most popular sport. I had not heard of Pelé, and the international aspect of the game, much like the Olympics, is really what intrigued me.
Here's Maria again with the ball, moving in. Takes a shot, gets blocked by the defender. One of the things that the American public, I think, has trouble with is the fact that when viewing soccer, it doesn't seem to have the tension of, say, football or a number of sports.
Well, it doesn't have the point-in-time tension, and by that I mean a play is not over in 6 or 7 seconds. You don't have time to sit down and rest, to talk to your neighbor about what has just happened. There's a tremendous tension, though, in soccer because of there's so few goals, there's so much build-up. When a player misses a shot at goal, the fan does too, and he is just as frustrated as the player, and so obviously when a goal is scored, a fan is just as happy as the player.
There's Tommy Ord, New York attacker, being held a little bit. Maria, shot clears the top of the net. I was mentioning earlier the yellow card. You might want to describe that just a little bit.
Well, what that is, it's the leverage that a referee has. The referee's in charge of the game. When a player is overly violent or he dissents from what the referee's decision is, he can give a player a yellow card, warning him that the next time he commits the same infraction, he will be ejected from the game, and which is well, it's much like a man advantage situation in ice hockey. Anytime you've got an extra man on the field, it's a great advantage, and few players want to be ejected from a game because not only do you miss that game, but you miss the next game as well.
Here's a replay on that, on the trip. Maria, and down he goes. Back to the live action. Boston beginning to move now. One of the most exciting plays has to be the wing coming down and centering the ball to the attackers in front of the goal, Kyle.
There's no question. It allows the center attacking players not to be offsides. You have always the possibility of collision.
There's one right there. Shot right on Messa.
That was a good position by Sheff in that case. But you're right. It allows the players not to be offside, so you have the potential of a lot of physical contact in front of the goal, and it is one of the most exciting plays in soccer.
We have an interesting contrast in the two goals. Kurt Kuykendall, the goalie for the Cosmos, is that was Kuykendall trying. It was outside. Kuykendall's a very religious player, I gather, and credits God with just about every save that he's ever made.
Well, I think what it is, knowing Kurt pretty well, it's like most aspects of society, we have players in the league who are very spiritually based, others to whom that means very little, and I don't know that Kurt would credit every save to God's power, but he's certainly very aware that there's something outside of himself that means a little bit more than he does.
I might mention that in the other goal, Shep Messing recently was the centerfold of a national magazine for women, and claimed that in posing for that centerfold he got more exposure for the National Soccer League than North American Soccer League than the league had gotten in many of its previous years.
Well, certainly the word exposure is correct. He did get a lot of exposure.
An offside call against Boston. On a day like today, how do you pace yourself, Kyle?
Well, you really can't. You can't pace yourself. Both of these teams are, of course, are in the running still. New York has a mathematical chance of making the playoffs. They will all probably run somewhere between 7 and 9 miles, which is an awful lot. This game means a lot because New York won an earlier game 3-1, and this is really their last chance at playoff hopes right here.
They have to win both of these by big scores.
For
The
New
way
York,
the rankings go in the
here
North American
goes
Soccer League,
Limerick.
you receive, I believe, 6
Corner.
points for a win, no points for a loss, and then you receive a point for every goal which you score, whether you win or lose. We'll be showing you the standings within the North American Soccer League shortly, but what could happen today if, for example, New York were to win by 3 goals, 3-0, New York would score 9 points in the standings, and Boston would get none.
And we might mention that 9 is the maximum that you can score in one game. So it's 1 bonus point for every goal up to 3.
Now here comes a throw-in, in which both feet must be planted on the ground, and it must be thrown with both hands over the head. This change to both hands over the head and both feet on the ground came about 20 or 30 years ago in soccer, because they developed a group of people who could throw the ball directly into the goal with one hand, and became a specialty which they eliminated in soccer.
And even now, Crane, we have a number of players, Peter Kramer in Dallas for us, Steve Bauman in Miami, who are so adept at the throw-in that they can put the ball almost into the goal mouth even now.
One of the other shifts in soccer over the years has been the original lineups in soccer usually were something like 9 forwards, 1 defender, and 1 goalie. It's always been an 11-man team, but over the past, say, 50 years, the trend has been to more defense, and the alignment that most of the North American Soccer League teams play is a 4-3-3 now. 4 attackers in the front line, 3 midfielders or halfbacks, and 3 defensemen or fullbacks. And there's some move on now in soccer to try to increase the number of goals scored. There's Tommy Ord, out to Manuel Maria. Maria trying to get around. Nicely taken away.
Several years ago, Maria was in an auto accident, and was very lucky that he was not killed, and has come back from the injuries he suffered, and is almost as good as he was before.
Werner Roth also had spinal fusion, I believe, over the winter, and is playing this season. What sort of padding or protection, if any, are they wearing?
Some of the players, Crane, will wear shin guards. It's a thin polyurethane membrane over the shins, but I would guess it's probably half and half. And other than that, there's no protection. Of course, with shirt sleeves that we see the New York team in, the abrasions that they will get on their arms from the artificial turf can be substantial.
Loss of the ball there. It's the kind of thing that breaks up a play. You get a succession of passes and then someone will strip the ball. That's Lamas for New York, who's probably the tallest player on the field today at 6'3" or 6'4". I might mention that almost most of the soccer players are small, and it's one of the great things to keep in mind if you're like me, or in fact like Kyle. Pelé himself, I believe, is about 5'10", 165, or something shorter than that.
He's not even 5'10". No. And of course, the idea, the smaller you are, in general, the lower your center of balance is.
There's a breakaway on Kuykendall. There's a shot on goal. Boston scored. Here it is on the replay. It's number 8, Jeff Davis. See him. Defender loses balance. Davis cuts by. And there's a shot. Kuykendall got a hand on it, but not enough.
I think in that slow motion we were able to see the spin on the ball. He had a left to right spin, which will make the ball curve from right to left. Much like what a baseball pitcher will do to a curve ball, and that's what allowed the ball to get around the reach of Kurt and into the goal. Some of your more skilled players can hit knuckleballs, they can hit sinkers, they can really do everything to a soccer ball that a a baseball pitcher can do to a baseball.
Shot wide there by number 3, Alan Wooler of Boston. We have number 22 for New York is down on the field at this point, and that is Primo, David Primo, who is down at the midfield stripe. The trainer's out looking at him now. Primo's a defenseman.
That last play with Wooler going down the left wing, he took the ball very well, got down to really a position where he probably should not have shot. He had good support just behind him, and had he held on to the ball, stopped, and passed the ball back, I think Boston would have had a much better chance at goal.
His sixth of the season.
You may be able to hear the announcer in the back. That was Jeff Davies, his 6th of the year. Scored at 21-12, I believe, in the first period. Soccer goes for 45 minutes of continuous action. Right now the clock is stopped with David Primo injured on the field. It is 45-minute half, a 15-minute halftime, and then another 45-minute half, which makes it probably the most grueling sport being played in the United States at this point. Or I would say that if there are more grueling sports, I don't want to know about them personally.
Well, I think, Crane, it probably is, especially in the heat that the players encounter in this country during the summer. Those players who are on loan from other countries, of course, play in the winter, where you can run a little bit longer and a little bit harder because you don't have the weight loss. But a player today, or a player in most any North American Soccer League game, will lose anywhere from 6 to 10 pounds a game.
It's a tremendous way to stay in condition. There's Pele sitting on the bench there, watching his team. The word is he may be in Wednesday night's game in New York when Boston comes back down to meet them. He did injure a thigh muscle, and I'm not sure who that is sitting next to him, just getting up and leaving.
I thought you were going to ask who is the man behind the Foster Grants.
Right. I was going to say Dr. Massey, but I'm not sure at this distance. There's David Primo up, walking on that leg, testing it. Now, what happens in the case of an injury like this? What is the substitution rule within the North American Soccer League?
Well, if he, it looks as though he can probably walk this injury off. If he cannot, they will substitute for him. The North American Soccer League, you can have up to 3 substitutions, and you always hate to substitute for one of your starters this early in the game, but it appears that New York may be doing that.
Now, is it possible for Primo to return to the game?
It is not. Once you are out of the game, you're out for good.
That's one of the things that I realized, having played soccer and football in high school. When I was on a football team, I spent most of the time on the sidelines watching the game. When you're on a soccer team, you don't have that many people on the bench, and you spend most of your time playing the game.
Well, fortunately, in the youth soccer development that we've seen in this country, one of the most important rules has been that every youngster plays, and that's been one reason that soccer has become endeared to all the parents and those people who run youth sports in the country.
One of the other things that makes it an interesting sport, at least for school systems and so on, is the fact that you need very little equipment. It consists of a ball, a flat place, and whatever shoes the kids can pull together to play the game.
And of course, that is the reason why it's so popular in every country in the world. Pelé himself started playing soccer even without a ball. They used to get a bunch of rags together and knot them up as close to round as they could and play with that. And indeed, I've seen him even juggle and play with the grapefruit.
Had a violation of 25 of Boston. You may have seen him holding him, just throwing a little hip into him, putting his arm around him. The referee has a tremendous amount of discretion as to what is a foul and what is not a foul. It generally must be intentional, and it must hinder the play or hinder the player, I might say. But it's not quite like the American football rules, in which there are specific penalties and specific yardages, etc. There's a lot of discretion given to the referee. I might mention also there are 2 gentlemen along the sidelines called Linesmen. And okay, here, let's take a look at that. We have it on a replay. You see him with the ball. Now you watch 25. He'll put a little hip into him, put his arm around him. There it is, right there. Just ride him off the ball.
You're allowed shoulder-to-shoulder contact, but apparently in that case the referee felt that the use of his arm was a little bit too much.
Free kick, New York.
Okay, New York gets possession. What is the role of the linesman, Kyle?
Well, actually he has two main functions. One is to indicate to the referee when the ball has gone out of bounds on the touch line, and the second, of course, is to make a judgment on the offside rule, because he will stay in line with the...
It's a one-on-one situation developing.
But you will see the linesman running up and down the touch line almost as fast as the players, so that he can have position on the offsides call.
There's Tommy Ord, who is an attacker who normally would be in front of the goal mouth, and he's now at least 50 yards from the goal mouth, having come back to try and break up that play. He lost his shoe in the process. But that's where you start piling up those 7, 8, 9 miles per game.
And it really, of course, Crane, indicates how much of a team game it is. We'll often see a forward be back in defense, especially on a corner kick situation. We'll see attackers like Werner Roth for New York moving upfield to try and get involved in scoring opportunities.
Here comes Maria again on the right wing. Now watch him cross in and the inside man go to the outside. On the outside, I believe that's Correa.
It is, yeah.
Julio Correa, who is a good example of a low center of gravity. Correa may be the only player on the field whose center of gravity is below the turf.
That was an illegal throw-in. But Correa, I think, is 5'4", something like that.
Use of the head, Kyle. There we saw somebody hit it with the head. You can do anything with the head, can't you?
You can, including being kicked in the
blocking a foot, it's called.
But that's one of the most unique aspects of the game of soccer is the use of the head that we really don't see in any other sport. Someone like Pelé, who has so much great body control, even though he's 5'8", he can often beat a defender who's well over 6 feet tall just because of his timing.
That's Mark Liveridge with the ball, bring it down the far side now. Centering it, and there goes the play right there. That's Tony Picciano, who is another one of the Native Americans playing on the team. Maria trying to get around his man, trying to center it over to Lamas. Lamas goes out on the left wing where Liveridge takes it.
Mentioning Tony Picciano, Crane, he's one of the true examples of working hard and listening to your coaching. He's developed from a very raw player into one of the more valuable New York players, and he's played very well against us.
And there's Day, who is also Brazilian, who just came up recently to New York. He's a defenseman in the top left-hand corner of your screen. They played at Santos with Pelé also, so that gives us at least two players who are former teammates of Pelé on the field right now, Manuel Maria and Day.
And of course, this will be very important as the New York Cosmos go on their world tour, which I believe is scheduled for September and October this year, to have some of the world-class experience that players like Day and Maria and Pelé can add to the team, because they're going on a very rough schedule. And of course, they're representing not only New York but the North American Soccer League, and they're carrying a lot of honor for us.
You'll see a line of people there, and they just tried to kick through it. We'll see if we have another view of that, because that's a direct kick on goal. If we do, we'll try and show it to you and try and explain to you what it is. We don't have that. If it does occur again, we'll try and show it. What is the line in front of the direct kick?
What they're trying to do there, Crane, is the rule states that they must be somewhere. The rule says they must be 10 yards, but usually they line up a little bit closer to the ball. They're trying to block the open side of the goal. The goalkeeper will take maybe 40% of the goal and position himself there in hopes that the wall can protect the other 60% of the goal.
To those of us who are not familiar with soccer, it may sound ridiculous to have 8 men lined up in front of a player who is kicking directly at the goal. You begin to wonder how he can get it at the goal. They are incredibly adept at either putting it through a hole in that wall, if one exists, or curving it around a line of 8 men. Just some incredible shots. New York defender clears it out to a Boston player, so here we go again. Boston seems to have them down in their own end now.
That was an excellent example of a Boston player timing his run so that he would not be offsides, running from the back, and at the time the ball was played to him, he was not offsides, though by the time he received the ball, he was in an offsides position.
You saw Correa lead Maria with a kick there that went out of bounds. So play will start again, Boston taking over now.
That's one of the problems of playing on artificial turf. Most of these players have never had that experience, and the ball runs a little bit different. It bounces differently. It was one of the problems that Pelé has had when he first came over, though I wish I had the skills that he had to cope with those problems.
How long did it take you to develop as a soccer player to transfer your skills? I might mention that in talking with Kyle Rote, I'm talking with one of the top professional athletes in the United States. He did win the Superstars, not last year, but the year before. So that you came in with a good deal of native ability.
Well, the main thing is that I was able to transfer a lot of the experience that I had in the other great American sports, football, basketball, and baseball, the hand-eye coordination, the body timing, the agility, and use that in soccer. It took me a number of years in college just working on my basic skills, but even more importantly, it was a thinking process that the pro game demands that I was able to learn from my teammates in Dallas.
Okay, let's see that again. Juan Maznik is the New York defender here, who will start to backpedal and try and cut off the shot. But as you'll see, he gets it by him. Kuykendall dives, but it goes wide of the net. Is there anything difficult in learning soccer, Kyle? I mean, anything that really is hard to learn?
Well, there certainly is. Of course, soccer, again, besides being unique in that it requires you to be able to use your head, not only to think, but also to hit the ball. But you're also using your feet. And learning how to balance yourself on one foot is probably one of the most difficult things to learn how to do. Of course, you have to move your feet in any of the other sports, but you usually have 2 feet to keep you balanced. In soccer, anytime you kick the ball, you're up on 1 foot.
You saw there a corner kick. Liverich put it out, and then I believe it was Mordecai Spiegler who centered it to Ord. Ord driving on the net and went down, didn't get his head on it, but
he was called for pushing from behind in that situation.
The coordination of the players is incredible. You see very few one-man shows in soccer. Occasionally you'll see one man break past 1 or 2 players, but there are 10 defenders out there when you got the ball.
That's correct, and that's probably one of the things that we really haven't realized with the coming of Pelé into the league. As great a player as he is, there's no way that one player can totally change a team around. When he was playing with Santos and with the Brazilian national team, anytime Pelé was double-teamed, both of those squads knew how to take advantage of his being double-teamed. New York has never had that experience. Indeed, none of the teams in the North American Soccer League have really had to deal with one of their players being double and triple teamed the way New York has, and it just takes time for them to learn how to best take advantage of that.
Long shot sails over the goal. One of the things I was amazed at in watching Ord in practice was his ability to get off a solid shot at the goal, no matter what his body's relationship to the ball was. That the ability to use left and right foot, inside and outside, knee, everything, to get that shot off and get a hard shot off, not a soft one. Oh. Here's a replay on that goal.
That was Melodieu, who was taking the ball down the wing, bounced off a New York defender, and of course back inside to Eddie Coker.
Eddie Coker is one of the most dangerous people on the field out there, playing for Boston Minutemen. He's done tremendously well later in the season. He comes from England, and I believe was playing with West Ham.
He was playing with West Ham. He's a Nigerian by birth. And one of the amazing things about Eddie Coker is that he's only 20 years old. He has a lot, many more good years to play. He had an injury earlier in the season to his leg that kept him out of the first 6 games. But he has scored, I believe, a total of 7 goals up until this game right here.
You mentioned his age, and I might also mention that we have players out there 34, 35. I'm not sure who the oldest player on the field is. If you get a chance to get near a soccer team, a professional soccer team, and take a look at them, the first thing that you notice is the total absence of fat on the players. These people are in incredible physical condition because of the workout that they go through continuously, no matter what age they are. Which I might mention is one of the reasons why I stopped playing soccer.
And of course, that's also one of the great reasons why it's such a great game for young people, because even if they never touch the ball, the fact that they're out on the field running, it keeps them in great shape. Here we have that replay.
There's the shot. It goes wide. You can see Shep Messing diving for it. Now, the goalie does not wear any additional protection either.
No, he will wear, the only special equipment he will normally wear is just a set of gloves that, because of the perspiration on the ball, or when it's wet because of the water on the ball, will help him catch it a lot easier.
We were talking about Coker earlier. That was his 8th goal of the season, his 21st point, which includes assists and goals. And it came at 33-30 in the first period of play. There's Messing going outside again. They take a tremendous number of it. It's not so much the impact of the ball, it seems to me, with the goalie, as it is hitting the ground. The number of dives that the goalie has to take, which is one of the reasons why they wear the long sleeve jersey. We mentioned the abrasions earlier, and New York seems to be having trouble keeping its shoes on today. That's the 3rd New York player who's lost a shoe in the course of this game.
Well, of course, as your feet get wet from the perspiration and the traction on artificial turf is so good that a lot of times you'll just run out of your shoes. But you're right, goalkeepers are really gymnasts. They have to be acrobatic, and certainly Shep Messing is one of the most acrobatic goalkeepers in the country.
Messing was with the Cosmos until before this season when he was traded to the Minutemen, and it looks as though the way things are going, Messing will be going into the playoffs with the Minutemen, and if this game continues this way, it doesn't look like any possibility of New York's making the playoffs. We'll explain that point system and the standings at halftime.
33 minutes, 30 seconds. Coker from Melodieu.
Maria outside to Correa. Back to Maria. Shep Messing's right there again. One of the things, I played some goal when I was in high school, and I think one of the things that we tend to forget looking at the game from the side is that every time that ball comes toward the goalie, there's a tremendous rush of adrenaline, because you never know when that shot's going to come, who's going to take it. And so even something, just that moment there, Messing began to, as Correa started to take it down, you could see Messing tense up. Look at him pacing in the net there.
Well, a goalkeeper, despite the fact that he's not considered a field player, he really initiates the attack, and his distribution from that defensive position often can be critical in whether or not his team is able to attack.
An important point. One of the problems the Cosmos had this year is 2 goalies. One who was probably superior in being able to stop the ball. The other who was probably superior in being able to start the play. And played off and on with the 2 different goalies. You saw there, he stripped the ball, the defender stripped the ball from the attacker, and then here we'll see it again. We have a call. I don't know if he called, yes, he gave the free kick to, watch the hands here. Just a little reach, and he holds him, and so New York got the ball.
Addy Coker there was trying to put the ball between his legs, and Tony, of course, was able to close it out and was pulled down as he was breaking away.
Probably the best way to think of the sport is, I said a moment ago, when you got the ball, there are 10 defenders out there, or 11 defenders counting the goalie. And that if you can get the ball, if you can get more of those defenders behind you, if you can get that ball past a couple of them, you begin to increase your odds. The more people you can get by, which is why the passing will go from sideline to sideline, trying to dump people and trying to keep the ball moving downfield.
Well, it's very similar to what you're trying to do in basketball with an overload situation. You're trying to make the defense believe you're going to attack down one side, immediately switch the ball to the other, in hopes that you'll have a man advantage. There you saw Warner Roth clear the ball out of bounds. Warner plays for the U.S. national team and has been a real stalwart, has captained the national team several times, and is an excellent player.
He was, I am correct, he did have spinal surgery during the off-season this year, I believe, and has made an incredible comeback. We talk a lot about the Cosmos here, and you'll have to pardon us. My experience being from New York is Cosmos games, and Kyle has played against the Cosmos twice this year, so he's more familiar with their style of play than the Minutemen. You did not play the Minutemen this year, Kyle?
We have not, though obviously the way they've been playing, that doesn't mean that they're not adept at what they're doing. They will use a lot of the same techniques and style that New York does. They obviously like to isolate Addy Coker against wing fullback, and he's done that several times and crossed the ball into very dangerous positions. I think we'll see a little bit more of that as the game goes on.
We also have a player coach at midfield, don't we? The German. You were talking about him earlier.
We do, and he has played against Beckenbauer, and this is Sunholtz. He's played against Beckenbauer and played against Gerd Mueller in the German First Division. And every player has their own spark plug, their engine room. Pelé was a spark plug for New York. Sunholtz, have been told, is a spark plug for Boston. A player like Ronnie Sharp is a spark plug for Miami. Every club has their there we see an offside situation.
Offside.
Sunholtz is number 10, and he plays midfield. And you will see him setting up plays. He and Samois for Boston this year really were quite good. Samois number 11 at setting up the play, and both of them ended up with a tremendous number of assists. And the scoring by the Minutemen is pretty well evened out. You don't have any single person who's really run away with it. You see Addy Coker has been hot lately, but they rely more on the distribution of the ball than on any single star.
That was an excellent play there by Wooler, who came back from the defense into the attack, was off the far post, headed the ball down and towards the far post, and had his teammates been a little bit quicker to recognize what he was going to do, that would have been a much more dangerous situation.
Over the goal again. That crossbar is 8 feet off the turf, and a good goalie can jump and can block at 8 feet, but you got to remember that that ball is moving fairly hard, and it's not just getting your fingers up to 8 feet, it's getting them up there solidly enough to stop the ball.
And apparently here, Kuykendall had touched the ball just prior to its going over the bar, and so we've got a corner kick for Boston.
Here's the pass. Whoop. Here comes the shot, and you can see it just going over. On the corner kick, Kuykendall just stepped out and took it away. Live action again over to Day. This entire field, you can see the football markings on it, which have nothing to do with soccer, the 10-yard markings, but it gives you a good idea of the size of a soccer field. The length of the soccer field is the length of a football field plus the end zones. And that gives you an additional 20 or 30 yards of depth in the field, length in the field. And the width varies on the soccer fields, but they are wider than football fields. In this case, it's about 4 yards on either sideline, wider than your standard football field.
Offside. There are approximately 2 minutes remaining in the first half. We remind you the scoreboard clock is unofficial.
In general, we see that a soccer field is anywhere from 40 to up to 80% larger than a football field, and of course, one player will go from corner to corner and end to end in covering that.
You saw there on that play, I believe it was Roth who jumped up and put his hand on the ball. That's not legal. It is all right if the ball strikes you in the hand unintentionally, but you cannot intentionally control the ball with your hand. If you do, you lose possession to the opposition. There's a break. Oh, beautifully centered. Masnick got a foot on it and cleared it out. Okay, here comes the play again. We're going to take another look at it.
That was an excellent example of an overlap by the fullback, Wooler, number 3.
The shot, and Masnick just gets his foot on it.
As you can see, Wooler there was uncovered. He was unmarked, and that's one of the advantages of bringing a fullback into the attack. Of course, the disadvantage is that if he gets caught up there too close, his team could be beat by a fast break.
That is the end of the first half. Boston leads 2-0 here, and we are at Nickerson Field, Boston University in Boston. Minutemen 2, Cosmos nothing. Now we're going to be here. It'll be a 15-minute halftime. We'll be resuming play. Kyle, you have any observations quickly on the first half?
Nothing really, other than the fact that I think Lamas for New York is going to have to get a little bit more involved in their attack. We don't see the spark plug for New York that Pelé has given them. Maybe they have, through the last series of games, relied on him a little bit too much.
Okay, that is the first half of play from Boston. Here we will be back shortly. Wanted you to know that you are watching North American Soccer League Soccer on PBS, the public broadcasting system. Back at Nickerson Field. My name is Crane Davis. Sitting with me is Kyle Rote Jr., who is star of the Dallas Tornado. Dallas has been eliminated from the playoffs this year and will not be in. They have been in for how many years? You've been there, what, 2-3 years now?
Well, this is would have been our 5th year. We've made the playoffs 4 years in a row, which is a great tribute to the soccer organization there in Dallas and what we have done in the last 4 years. Unfortunately, the league every year is getting stronger and stronger. The competition is getting better and better. And while I think even this year we improved from last year's team, probably we didn't improve at the rate that many of the other teams did, and that's the reason we didn't have quite the season we expected.
There have been a lot of exchange players, foreign players on loan. What happened basically is that North American Soccer League expanded within the past 2 years, went from 8 teams to 20. And in this expansion, they picked up an awful lot of players who played professionally elsewhere in what is the North American Soccer League's off-season. And this has created problems for teams.
Well, it has created some problems, but obviously the American players cannot learn the game by themselves. My game has been developed because of the loan players, the players from other countries who have taken the time to teach me what they know. And so there is a lot of value in having their experience in our country. The problems that we have are really that their home clubs would like to get them back earlier. We have a situation right now where Portland, the Portland players, their home teams wanted them to return to England. As I understand it, it's now straightened out. They will stay and go through the playoffs. But that's always a problem because the players are playing in other countries for 9 months during the year. They'll play for 3 months here in our country. If they go directly back to their home team, means that they're playing 21 months in a row, which is an awfully long season for any athlete.
The combination, this is one of the things that makes it interesting to watch. There is no style, no fixed style to North American Soccer League soccer yet, because you have South American players who by and large are passing and trying to work a passing game. You have your European players your English players who love to stand in front of the goal and shoot at the goal. You have young American players who have individual styles. They really haven't developed league styles. And have you seen any combinations, any teams where you're beginning to see a team style, or what's happening down in Dallas now?
Well, and Dallas I think really is a bad example, but you take the Central Division, or the Southern Division champion St. Louis, who this year for the first time really put things together. They have a great group of young American players who have been playing for 3 and 4 years and have developed a good deal of skill. They're tremendous hustlers. They understand what type of game they're playing. We've infused that with a number, 3 or 4 good, experienced English First Division players who have come over and have kind of put their team together. And so we're using the experience of the English players plus the hustle and determination of the young American players. They've had an excellent team this year.
You're talking about developing skills. A little bit earlier today, we went down on the field and we got a couple of Boston Minutemen ball boys. And in just a second, we will be going down to that. And in just about a minute, my director tells me we will be going down and we'll be showing that. One of the things that it seems to me American players need more than anything is just to practice with the ball alone.
Just no question. As I was said in this tape, I can remember when I was growing up, sleeping with a football, throwing it up in the dark at night and trying to catch it in the dark to develop that feel in my hands, the way a soccer player has that feel in his feet. I can remember just bouncing a basketball, continually trying to develop that same touch, doing the same thing with an ice hockey puck on a stick. It's just getting used to the ball, used to the feel of it, and working your touch out. And I think that's probably the one weakness that the young American players have, is that most other sports do not require use of the feet in contact with the ball. And one of our biggest weaknesses is we don't have any really skilled wingers the way many other countries do.
Okay, why don't we go down on the field? Kyle will change his clothes very quickly and suddenly appear. This was taped before the game, and here's a little seminar for you on soccer and soccer skills.
Crane, today we're going to be talking about one of the aspects of practice that actually gets very little play. Very few people talk about it, and that is individual practice. Most players will work out with their teams. A lot of the youth teams work out several times a week. But anyone whose goal in soccer, of course, is to have fun, or whose goal is to use their God-given abilities to the best that they can, has got to learn how to work at it on an individual basis. You take someone like John Havlicek in basketball, who will stand for a long time and just dribble a ball to build up the feeling in his hands. Or I can remember when I was young, sleeping with a football and throwing it up in the dark, trying to catch it to build up my hands. Or Pete Rose in baseball, or an O.J. Simpson in football. Each has learned how to handle themselves individually in a practice session on their own. And so what we're going to do today is take some of the youngsters from the local soccer leagues and teach them some of the drills that a person can work on all alone, at home, at night, down at the park, wherever they want to.
Okay.
We're going to start with, today, a few of the dribbling skills, some of the skills involved in trapping. Obviously, in the short time that we have, we can't go into the shooting and all the aspects of soccer, but we're going to talk about some of the simple drills that every youngster can learn. The first one, we're going to go into some of the dribbling skills. It's what I call touch-touch, and that is just developing in your feet the same feel that a football pass receiver has developed in his hands, or a basketball player has developed in his hands. And it's just a very simple drill of bouncing back and forth, the ball between your feet, going up each time. And so we're going to have some of the youngsters trying that right here. It's obvious that they've been playing soccer because this comes very easy to them. But one extension of that is going into it and walking forward, going forward with it, and then coming back with it. And they're obviously very adept at that. The next thing we call it's almost tap dancing. That's what I call it. And it's a very simple drill. You put your foot on top of the ball, the sole of your foot on top of the ball, and you just switch feet, going back and forth, leaving the ball the same place, just like that. You guys want to try that?
Now, what is this for trapping, say, just to...
This is for trapping, but actually it's really to work on balance of your standing leg. I think most people realize in soccer that now the critical leg is your standing leg, and if you or trying to kick the ball, you have to have good balance on your standing foot, and that's what they were doing. An extension of that is what we kind of call a rollover. Let me let you hold this mic while we do that.
And you do it in both directions?
And this comes a little bit more difficult, but it's something that, again, that takes just a little bit of practice. Whoops.
Whoop. One down.
I've done that many times, don't worry.
Let me see that again, just real quick. If
Okay,
you could.
what it is, it's almost a rollover, catching the ball,
Rollover, stop.
over.
Right.
And it's a drill that many of the wingers in the North American Soccer League, the Gordy Hills of Chicago, the Davy Chadwicks of Dallas, a drill that they can do. One of the next things that we can do, we'll going away from dribbling skills, we'll go to some of the trapping skills.
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me just take this away from you. Why don't you just go ahead and show some?
We will.
And we'll just go out on that. Watching professional soccer over PBS, the public broadcasting system. Why don't you, here, we're back again for a second. Kyle, why don't you explain what you're going to do now?
What we're doing now, Crane, is going over some of the trapping skills. The guys have been working on the head trap, which is jumping up with the ball, taking the pace off the ball. You jump up as the ball's coming down, in a fashion similar to that. And really the theory is the same as it is in football or basketball. That is, you're taking your body slightly away from the ball as you meet it. Brooks Robinson at third base never holds his glove right out and lets the ball just hit it. He pulls the ball into his body. And so that's the same theory in soccer trapping. You pull the ball into yourself. That's why I was jumping up to meet the ball. That's why when you trap with your chest, you concave it in. In football or basketball, that is, you're taking your body slightly away from the ball as you meet it. Brooks Robinson at third base never holds his glove right out and lets the ball just hit it. He pulls the ball into his body. And so that's the same theory in soccer trapping. You pull the ball into yourself. That's why I was jumping up to meet the ball. That's why when you trap with your chest, you concave it in. And so we'll continue to do some of those drills with the guys. Let's do the chest trap now, okay?
Not bad, not bad. You might get a job doing this. You keep that up. You're watching professional soccer over public broadcasting system, PBS.